Hi everyone, my name is Daniel. I'm a registered kinesiologist here in Ontario, and I am also the internship coordinator for the School of Human Kinetics here at the University of Ottawa. So I'm here today to talk a little bit more about the benefits of walking in general. So I think before we get into walking, it would maybe be good to take a step back and look at the Canadian Physical Activity Guidelines. So we now know, I think most people will agree with me that exercise is good for you, and that we should probably be exercising a little bit more, or that at least we could benefit from maybe a little bit more exercise. So what do the Canadian Physical Activity Guidelines recommend? So first of all, we recommend 150 minutes per week of moderate to vigorous aerobic exercise or aerobic physical activity. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, it's important to know that we are allowed to accumulate the 150 minutes. So it doesn't necessarily need to just be divided up into one or two bigger bouts or bigger sessions. It can be divided into very smaller bouts, so even 10-minute bouts of exercise can be very beneficial. Besides that, it's also important to look at the intensity. So what exactly does moderate to vigorous activity mean? And we can use walking as an example for that. So I've heard people use different terminologies, or there's obviously different more scientific techniques. So your basic VO2 max, are looking at your heart rate and your percentage of heart rate or max heart rate. And so those would be more of your scientific methods. But what can you do, or what can someone do just to monitor their level of intensity or the level of difficulty of an exercise? There are other ways. So one, or probably my favorite way, is the talk test. So just being able to speak with someone else while you're walking should be still fairly easy. So a moderate exercise would be taking in a breath maybe in between every sentence, but you should still be able to carry on a conversation. You should still be able to carry on a conversation, but not just divide your sentence up into two to take a breath, right? So that's probably the easiest one for me to use, the easiest one for anyone to use, really. And another one, I've heard different things. I've heard things like walk like you're late for the bus, or walk like you're trying to catch a bus, or you're late for work, or that type of thing, which can be different for everyone. I think we would want to, if you can walk, we would want to. I'm just trying to catch my words here, but if you can walk a little bit faster than your regular pace, that you would maybe, let's say at the grocery store or just walking down the street, maybe walking with a purpose is another way to spin it. So just walking a little bit faster than you would normally do, and you'd probably be going at a moderate pace. And then the importance again to afterwards will be to increase that amount. So it's great that you're exercising at a certain intensity, and we can increase that intensity over time. But what I would recommend first is increasing the amount of time that you'd be according to one session. So really, instead of just doing maybe your 10 minutes during your lunch break, and then trying to just walk a little bit faster. It's fine if you want to go that route, but I would recommend maybe trying to fit in 15 minutes and staying at that same level of intensity, and building it up to at least maybe 30 minutes before wanting to progress to a higher intensity. The best thing with walking is that it offers limited barriers. So we've already talked about intensity, so it's very easy to modify the intensity of a walking session, right? So you can just walk a little bit faster, walk a little bit slower, and monitor your intensity that way. Other benefits to walking is that it's accessible, so it's very easy to just put on a pair of shoes and go walk outside. Even in the colder winter months, we have several walking programs in Ottawa and in the Ottawa region as well. So it's fairly easy to find somewhere to walk indoors as well. We have several mall walking groups as well that meet together every morning. So it's fairly accessible. You can modify the intensity. It's relatively low cost as well. Most of our walking programs in Ottawa are free, and it doesn't cost much to go take a walk outside. really all you need is a good pair of running shoes and you're good to go. And it's low skill as well, so it doesn't really take much to learn, right? We walk everywhere every day, so it's not something that you need to take a class to understand with the right technique, right? You can just go outside and walk, and you're good to go. So it's easy in a sense that there's limited barriers to maybe comparing it to more structured exercise or physical activity sessions with maybe another trainer, or just join a group at a specific time maybe. So it can be maybe more easily integrated into your everyday routine. So another thing to consider is the benefits of walking, but what should you specifically consider if you have some sort of limitation or a chronic disease. So by chronic disease, I mean anything that's cardiovascular disease, respiratory disease, diabetes, obesity. It could be as simple as hypertension, or we can look at more of your osteoporosis, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, fibromyalgia, are all very common conditions, specifically with seniors. So what can we look for? Well, aerobic exercise will still be beneficial for people with that type of conditions as well. We might just need to look at maybe first of all visiting your physician and asking for their opinion on if it's safe for you to exercise, and if there's any other if there's any other doubts in your mind whether if it's safe or not for you to exercise, I would definitely recommend visiting a kinesiologist. We have over 60 registered kinesiologists here in Ontario that will be able to look over all your conditions and identify the proper exercise prescription to move forward. But just generally speaking, I think everyone, unless you're really wheelchair, unless you really just move around in a wheelchair or just wheelchair bound during your everyday life, I think if you're walking around during your everyday life, I think it can definitely be beneficial for you to walk a little bit more. So it might just be a question of starting off a little bit slower and progressing afterwards. So walking a bit slower for a shorter amount of time might be important for you, just to maybe gain that confidence as well, and then you can move forward and maybe increase that time again over maybe 10, 15, maybe hopefully maybe 30-minute session. So when we're talking about walking specifically related to chronic diseases or specific conditions, I know it can sometimes be a little nerve-wracking and starting a new exercise program, or maybe just becoming a little bit more physically active and making sure it's safe, right? So I think the first thing is, if you have any doubts regarding the safety of an exercise or the safety of an activity, you can definitely go see your doctor. They'll be able to let you know that yes, it is safe for you to exercise, even if you have a cardiovascular disease, a respiratory disease. Other chronic diseases would be things related to obesity, diabetes, osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia are all very common chronic diseases here in Canada. So one thing is, you can look it's easy enough to go see your doctor and ask if it's safe for you to exercise. And you can also go see a registered kinesiologist. We have over 60 registered kinesiologists here in Ontario, and they'll be able to prescribe the right volume, the right intensity, and the right type of exercise that will be beneficial for you. As far as specifically related to walking, I think that that most people who walk around every day could benefit from walking a little bit more. So that being said, if it might just be a question of walking a little bit more slowly at the beginning, and walking for maybe a limited amount of time, and then progressing on that duration afterwards. It can also be other things that you can consider would maybe buying a pair of Nordic walking poles. I've seen several people that are walking with walking poles, and it just added a little bit more confidence. They would walk a little bit more straight up. And obviously, if you have any type of arthritis of the hand or any type of shoulder issues, it might not work for you. But often just having that extra, essentially just a stick, having that extra stick in your hands might increase your confidence and just in case that you were ever to miss a step or fall, and it might just be able to catch you before you fall any further. So other things, another tip would be maybe looking at buying a pedometer. So a pedometer is a very simple, small little device that counts your steps per day. So it's just a clicker that you put on your belt. You can buy it at any sports store or drugstore, and you can count the amount of steps that you take throughout your day. So now we're not just talking about specific exercise sessions or the amount of exercise that you should do in a week, but we're talking about just regular physical activity and increasing the amount of steps that you should take in a day. So the first thing I recommend is just putting it on first thing in the morning, make sure it's properly adjusted, and then just looking at that number at the end of the night. So let's say you're at 5,000-6,000 steps that day, and then just maybe the next day trying to increase that by maybe 100 steps. So tips to do that would be maybe taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or maybe parking farther away in a parking lot and just taking advantage of that extra 100 steps maybe that you can take, or maybe extra 20 steps really. Every step counts is what I'm trying to get at here. So that would be definitely one thing that can motivate you to increase the amount of physical activity in a day, and it's just taking it step by step. As far as the take-home message, the number one thing will definitely be to make it enjoyable. So have fun while you're walking. A big thing that affects enjoyment might be peer support. So if you have a family member or a friend that can walk with you, someone to talk to along the way, it can really make the time go by a lot faster and make the activity more enjoyable. You can definitely join a walking program as well and meet new people, a walking group, meet new people that way. Another thing too that worked for me is having a pet. So I have a dog, and now I need to walk her every day. So there's an accountability there. You need to take the dog out for a walk, but it might just be that companion that you need to change that behavior and become more physically active. As far as other things, like I've mentioned before, make sure that you start off slowly and build from there. You don't need to walk a marathon during your first week here. You can just start off small and build from there. And really, every bit of physical activity counts. So it's not just a question of, again, building maybe 30 minutes in one session. It's a few steps here, a few steps there, and after a while it'll add up. The smaller gains will add up to bigger gains in the end.